about this event for a couple weeks now. We talked to comedian Dennis Regan last week. Again, that interview is on our YouTube page. Go to Q92 on YouTube. Go back and listen to it. He's going to be performing at the Canton Cultural Center on January 20th. Tickets are on sale right now. CrackpotsComedyClub.com. And Lou Santini, local comedian, local former radio DJ. He is in studio with us right now. He's going to be on that show as well. And Lou joining us not just on the show, but if you're watching right now on Facebook, YouTube, and X, you can see him there as well. Lou, welcome. Thanks for stopping by the show today.
Hey, thanks for having me down here. I love Dennis Regan stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I've worked with him. I was on the bill with him plenty of times when I lived in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just, you look at the guy and just all of a sudden he gets on stage and just lights it up. And I know somewhere in some cardboard box, I have a VHS tape. That's right, young people.
VHS.
And, VHS of him with his brother. It was a 30-minute comedy special on Showtime called A Pair of Jokers.
Oh,
and
wow.
my radio friend Brian Kelly and I, we must have watched that thing until the tape almost wore out. It was each of them just doing 15 minutes, a half hour, and just before they were like household names that they are now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, he was a great guy. I mean, we talked to him last week too because, I mean, he does get into some things, but he also is a fairly clean comic.
Oh yeah,
like he's just funny.
Yeah,
like funny. So,
like, which is what you want in a comedian.
It is
He's funny.
You know what? That is true. That's one of the prereqs.
No, I'm sorry, and I'm sorry if this offends you, but like,
don't ever worry about saying that to me.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes I feel like comics use like maybe profanity and things like that to make things funnier.
Sure.
He doesn't need to.
He doesn't. He's
swear. So good.
Yeah, he is good like that, and that's funny too because I can work corporate clean. I have a long list of corporate clients. But I've also done biker rallies for 60,000 people.
You've got to play to the audience.
Yeah. That's a diverse audience.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've literally my smallest crowd was 2. My largest crowd was like 60,000.
Wow.
So that's the weird thing about stand-up. I mean, it could be, and you never know. I mean, you just never know what size crowd, what type of crowd you're going to get, and sometimes you got to work squeaky clean, which you pay. I play by the rules.
Right.
I try not to swear unless I'm just so like emotionally involved in the moment.
Of course.
But I don't really go out of my way to pepper it. I mean, I've been doing stand-up for 27 years. I've never walked anybody. There's a difference between like adult humor and gross.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I would agree.
There's a line.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's not, and look, and I I say this literally, I respect all types of stand-up. There's room for everybody. But like I said, I don't have a problem with gross humor. I choose not to be gross because I don't want the people to leave. That's call me crazy.
Mm-hmm.
You want them sticking around.
Yeah.
But everyday life, all bets are off.
Well, okay, so you said you've done this for 2 and up to 60,000.
Yeah.
Do you get nervous when you go out?
I know it sounds like a cliche. I've never been nervous a day in my life. Public speaking, on the radio, stand-up comedy.
That's awesome.
I just never
Can you give me your tips and tricks? And,
I can't wrap my head around.
Like, I'm never nervous on radio, but like we do like face-to-face stuff, and then like I'm a
personal
totally
appearances.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I do it. I can do
of
it.
Course.
I just noticed, like, in me, I'm nervous.
I can understand that. And there's a lot of people who got on the radio because they didn't want to be in front of people. But then, like you said, they have to do appearances. But no, I've never been nervous. I will say, it's not the size of the crowd. It's the type of crowd. I'd rather kill in front of 2 people than have to, I can't buy a laugh here in front of, a sold out show. We all want a sold out show that's into it.
Right.
But you just never know what you're going to get,
Yeah,
which is why a lot of comedians like it.
Yeah.
You're not doing the same thing every time.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about your decision. Now, again, you grew up around here.
Yeah.
You got into radio around here, and then at some point you're like, how did the transition come from that to like I think I'm funny, but I want to try comedy because man, it's a brave decision and it's not easy.
Yeah, I heard you saying that while I was
waiting to come on. A lot of people who listen, even myself included, we think we're funny.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And to our buddies, we're funny.
Of course.
But then when you get out there in front of strangers and they're all looking at you and it's on you to entertain them.
Where were you the 8,000 radio interviews I've done where no one will say that or admit that? No, seriously. I mean, look, there is radio funny. And hey, I did this job for 11 years. There is a difference between being funny, hiding behind a microphone, so to speak, the same way you can hide behind a text or a tweet or, whatever you're doing on social media. Yeah. And then, like you said, you get in front of people. That's the, I try to tell because I've coached a lot of comedians like that. I said, the art of it is, like you said, now go in front of a live audience. Now go in front of an audience where they don't know you. Right. Like all of a sudden, it's like you might be crushing it, whatever city you're in. Then all of a sudden you go to Nowhereville, USA, and then maybe they have a complete different skewed sense of comedy than you do. And you're the headliner. Well, now the pressure's on you. They're paying to see you. pressure's not on the host and the feature and the showcase spots. It's on the headliner.
Yeah.
So now, on top of that, do that job. I'll say at a regular comedy club, if you're pulling a week there, you go in like one show Wednesday, one Thursday, two Friday, two Saturday. Some clubs maybe a Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And again, now do that late show Saturday with the same level of intensity that you did Wednesday, when the audience knows he's already done 4 or 5 shows this week.
Right.
And you have to create it like, hey, this is the first time I've ever said this. And I'm making this up on the fly. And then on top of that, do it for 20 years.
See, I think that's so interesting.
You know what I mean? You know,
I don't think people understand the hard work that goes into comedy. They think
refreshing
they call your name, you come up, and you're ready to go. Like you said, there's so many factors.
Something you and I, the three of us, we have in common, though. The audience doesn't care if you're not feeling well. You broke up with your significant other, your car crashed.
You always have to be
You have to bring it here. And you have to
Yeah.
do it in mornings. I've done every day part. I've filled in for mornings, but I've never done it full time.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you, 5:30 to 10 here?
5:30 to 10.
Yeah, it's like
Get
start
up
being
at
funny,
4.
be entertaining, be energetic, be positive at 5:30 in the morning. We don't care that you're not feeling well and you're tired and you got to think, what do you guys get up at 2:30, 3?
Oh, no, not me.
No,
I come in later. He starts earlier.
I get up at 4. I started at 5.
I hope you live across the street.
40-minute drive.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ouch. And that's no snow, right?
Yeah,
That's no snow.
So tomorrow
so you're just going to camp out here tonight.
Yeah, it only takes me 20 minutes to get here. So
we're talking to Lou Santini, comedian, here in studio with us. Going to be at the Canton Cultural Center on January 20th with Dennis Regan. That's going to be a heck of a show. So you decided to go out to LA. You decided to go out to the West Coast.
I'm sorry, I never really answered your
I was
question.
just curious, like, what was that culture shock like?
Yeah, well, like I said, I mean, I knew I wanted to do stand-up since I was like 6 years old. Literally, I gave my first speech in church when I was 6 in front of like 200 people and loved it. And it was supposed to be, it was some little 4-minute speech, you know, a general religious speech like, wow, you should be kind to others, something like that, right? And of course, I had at 6 years old had to write a couple jokes in there, and I did it unbeknownst to my parents. And I go up there and I just threw these jokes in there, and the place erupted. Meanwhile, my mom's rubbing her head like, "Oh,
okay, but you landed it.
I did.
Yeah,
and I was instantly addicted. Plus, my parents and my grandparents, we had comedy nights. We'd listen to comedians. We turned the TV off and just listen to comedy. So it was ingrained in me. So I knew I wanted to make my living making people laugh, but I didn't want to dive into stand up right out of high school because, frankly, nothing had happened to me. Really. I mean, I know there are comedians that start at a very young age.
That's true. You got to have material and experiences to talk about.
Things have to happen to you.
Right.
So it was my dad, who's more of a businessman, is the one who encouraged me to get into radio. He figured, he's like, have a job, you'll get paid, you still get to be funny.
Yeah.
Plus you do personal appearances, you know. And I'm like, hey, this makes sense. And I did it. And I made so much money because there's so much money to be made in radio, he said with a smirk. But nonetheless, so after I'd done that for 11 years, full time, every day part, you know, I got to work at legendary stations. I mean, still to this day, I get emails from fans, but I got to the point where I had done some local TV hosting as well. And unless you want to get into news, which I can't, I'll make fun of it.
Right.
Yeah, I will. I'll get fired my first day because I'll make jokes about something terrible. And so I decided, it's like, well, I kind of accomplished everything I wanted to in radio and entertainment here. I feel like I've taken this as far as I can go.
Mm-hmm.
So it was either New York or LA. We had happened to have a horrible snowy winter that winter. So that made my decision
LA
easier.
it is.
LA it is. It was never about the weather, but that bad winter put me over the top.
Yeah.
So I just moved to LA and it just really started to reinvent myself there. My radio career helped. You know, you do personal appearances and public speaking.
For sure.
So I got into stand-up was my foot in the door, but a lot of TV hosting, live events, corporate stand-up comedy, voiceovers, video games, commercials, and then a little bit of acting. Acting is just, I don't. Yeah. I just don't like it.
Like, no, I'm not gonna do that anymore.
It just takes so long. Yeah. To do everything. I've been on sets for 13 hours to get one shot. And they're not. This isn't like some sci-fi explosion stuntman thing.
That's got to be like perfect.
This is like nail the time. It's like, can we go? Stand up. You're the writer, director, editor, producer, choreographer, performer. You go up, you do it. It's done.
Right.
You know, and if it's bad, all right, it's all on me. If it's great, it's all on me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's a good feeling. It's a good feeling.
You've gotten to work with some amazing comedians. Some of Lauren's favorites. I mean,
yes.
Bob Saget, Paul Reiser.
That legendary. I was so upset. I used to follow E-Travel. I still do. Okay. I love E-Travel Rock. His wife, Kelly.
Okay.
And followed Bob Saget even after my years of crawling in front of the TV for TGIF or Full House. Okay. Yeah. I've always loved Bob Saget. What a loss for the comedy community.
I don't know how much time you get yet. I got a quick Bob Saget story. Tell me. Here I go.
Go ahead.
Go right ahead.
Bob Saget was the first comedian I paid my own money to see. Right. I saw Bill Cosby when I was like 5 or 6 years
Yeah.
old. I know where that's going. Go ahead.
Were you like me when you found out what his comedy shows were like from
devastated.
Full House?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
I had sticker shock when I first saw Bob
Oh,
Saget
yeah, right,
special.
right.
Because I'm used to Danny Tanner.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
And I put on an HBO special one night as a kid. I was like,
yeah. Huh?
did Danny Tanner just...
This is the guy that was obsessed with cleaning
I know.
the house?
I know. So
He should not have been allowed to raise 3 girls.
I saw Saget at the old Akron Canton Comedy Club.
Oh,
I
wow.
know I'm older than you guys, but it was right there on Fulton, and it was a little 100-seater,
Mhm.
very loungy, which is Bob Saget's wheelhouse.
Mhm.
And I took a date when I was in high school, and we sat in the front row. And you got to realize I'm an '80s kid, so I'm sure I had really bizarre hair and terrible clothing on. And I had these loafers on that were just, to this day, I remember them. The bottoms of them, no joke, were made out of rope.
Oh,
I know, because that's a good thing to put in your foot. Smelly rope when your feet are sweaty.
Right.
But I had my feet crossed or something in the front row, and Bob Saget picked up on those shoes and made fun of them the entire time, right? and plus, he was hilarious. And he was still clean then because he was getting seduced by America's Funniest Home Videos
Yes.
and Full House and stuff.
Yeah.
So I had such a good time. I came back home and I told my parents, like, we're going to see him again tomorrow. I'm buying. And $5
Oh, wow.
for these
Be Bob
tickets.
Saget.
Be Bob Saget.
Wow.
Front row.
Yeah.
And coincidentally, my mom, dad, and they seated us in the same table in the same front row. And the look on his face, like, where'd you, what? Right?
Did you wear the shoes?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
But it gets better. So flash forward years later, I win the Detroit Comedy Festival. In addition to the prize money, you get to open for Bob Saget for the 3,000 people.
Wow.
Right?
3,000.
Right. Beautiful theater. So they told me originally 15 minutes, but then they said, you want to do a half hour? I'm like, heck yeah, I do. So Bob Saget comes up to me in my dressing room and he goes, hey, listen, I'm just warning you. My audiences tend to arrive at the show drunk and or high. He goes, so if you can't hold the stage, don't worry, I'll cover your time.
Mhm.
And I'm like, oh, don't you worry, I'll do my job here. And I admit it, I crushed it for 30 minutes, right? And they also let me bring him up. And I
that's awesome.
and I told the story about
Your
how
shoes.
my shoes. He goes, oh my, I remember that show, the Akron Canton Comedy Club. You were in the front row. You came back to back night. He totally
No
remembered it. Yeah.
Wow.
The sweetest, nicest guy gave me this big hug on stage. Like, thank you for making
That
my
was the
job
best purchase you
so
could have
much-
made,
Oh,
was those shoes.
No kidding, right?
Right?
It's weird how that works.
Got a quick text message. I saw Lou at Crackpots a while back, and he was absolutely hilarious
Oh, thanks, Mom.
coming in on the
That's nice of her.
on the.
Do you want to
text
check
line.
to see if that's her cell phone number?
Like, I know that number. We can show it to you.
Yeah.
But before we let you go, this has been a great
This is fun.
conversation. But like I'm just curious, like being a comic now in 20. And I asked Dennis about this in 2024. The way this world is,
Yeah.
how everyone is it that much harder? Like, how does it affect you as far as like when you're thinking of new material, when you're coming up with stuff going?
Yeah.
As
Who's just
annoying
going to
as
bother?
it is, yeah,
Right.
as annoying as it may be,
Yeah.
Like,
I say this wholeheartedly. I don't care. You have
good
to.
for you.
You have to not care.
Right.
But let me be very clear about this. You have to not care what people think, because it has to make me laugh. All my favorite bits are the ones that, as I'm writing them, even rehearsing them,
You're
and getting
laughing
them
at
down,
your own self.
years later, I'm like, I still love this joke. I know this one's solid, right? So you have to not care what people think, but you do have to genuinely care about making the audience laugh. That's why they paid their money. They're there to feel better and forget about their
that's a great way
day,
to
their
look at
week, whatever's going on in their lives.
Yeah.
So I used this when I was in the radio. It's like, I don't care what people think. I'm going to say this. But
Sure.
I cared about entertaining them. And it's like you have to go in knowing that I don't care how clean you are. I've seen the cleanest comedians out there. Gaffigan, Dennis Regan, Brian Regan.
Nate Bargatze.
Yeah, these clean comedians walk people because they get offended. I'm like, when Jeff Gaffigan and Dennis Regan are, that's a you problem. I mean,
Yeah.
seriously, that is
Yeah.
a you problem. So I have to write what I write, and ideally I try to come up with like a clean version of that. If I can, if I have to do corporate or show, like I'm doing a clean show, I'd say it's PG. You know, there's no content you're going to worry about. I like writing, even though it's considered clean material, it has a real aggravated anger point of view coming at it. The frustration.
Yeah.
You show that. And I like to pick universal things. I do like to pick subject matters that it doesn't matter your race, your religious background, your age. I've done shows with literally 5-year-olds and their parents in the audience, family-friendly shows, and 90-year-olds in the same audience.
Yeah.
And entertaining an audience of that diversity, just in ages, forget about everything else,
Sure.
is a challenge in itself.
Yeah.
And that's the fun of it.
Well,
That's awesome.
Lou's going to be with Dennis on the 20th of January, Canton Cultural Center. Tickets on sale right now. Crackpotscomedy.com. Be sure you get
That's
them.
this Saturday.
That's
This
in
Saturday.
2 days.
You do not want to miss this.
And it's going to get warmer. I hear it's going up to 4.
See,
Yeah, it'll
you
be great.
guys, you can totally venture out. You're not going to freeze.
Nah, you'll be inside. Everyone's like, it's so cold. I was like, it's an indoor show, right?
Right. It's not like they're seating you out in the parking lot.
Put on your heavy coat, run into the door. It'll be heated in there. I've
It'll be
never
good.
been to that place either. I heard it looks beautiful.
The Cultural Center?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You're going to like it.
It's
I
really
can't.
nice.
I cannot wait. I love playing venues.
It's real. And like I said a couple times on the show today, man, couldn't we all just use a night, a couple of drinks and laughing
Yes.
with our friends?
Yeah.
Just 2 drinks?
We'll see. We'll see if Jake.
Call
beer
an Uber,
tastes.
call your friends.
That's right.
And get your tickets to see Dennis Regan and Lou Santini.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah,
Hey,
thank you.
Great conversation, Lou. Appreciate you.